Let's Monday morning quarterback, like our whole experience with Typhoon Mawar and everything. Because I mean, it's one thing for you guys, to do projections and forecasts and everything like that. Now we'll do what I'm more suited to is we analyze after the fact, right? This storm seemed to have
Yes.
like a lot of very distinct attitude and behaved in a way that was kind of very uncommon from some storms that we've seen before. Because some storms will kind of like they'll head straight for us and then they'll veer north and do like the hockey stick thing. This one seemed to kind of like wiggle around, and you said it. The slightest variations and striations can make a big difference, but this one couldn't seem to make up its mind. Would that be fairly accurate?
And I think I'm starting to lose you, but I hope it comes back shortly.
Yeah, I got you here.
I lost a lot of that, but I hear a signal now.
Okay.
But yeah, this was a tricky one because as this thing was making its approach, so this is at Wednesday, 7 a.m. That's Guam right there. The track was expected to go right over southern Guam, and we really talked about those wiggles and wobbles because I want people to understand that these things change. If you're in the Atlantic coast of the Gulf Coast of the States, it's realistically so much easier because somebody's going to take a hit. But when we're talking about little islands like Guam, Rotorua, Saipan, a wobble of 10 or 20 miles north or south can mean a miss or a direct hit. And so that's what's so complicated. But at 7 a.m., we were looking at this passage over southern Guam. But then that afternoon, it kept going to the right of track, edging a little bit farther northward. So at
Right.
1 p.m., right here, it was central Guam. And we didn't quite fully agree with that one based on what we were seeing in the radar imagery. And we knew it was going to be a little bit farther north. Shortly after, it started to make that turn toward the west. And at 7 p.m., it was clipping over northern Guam. It was a little bit slower than the 7 p.m. forecast time frame, but we did get confirmation from some folks at the 36th weather flight at Anderson Air Force Base that there was a little bit of an eye passage right over the northern tip of Guam. So folks in far northern areas of Anderson Air Force Base, maybe Retidium Point. I don't think anybody was up there, but there is evidence, and we believe that the eye did make a bit of a clip off of northern Guam, passing just into the Rota Channel. So we do have that confirmed as our storm and damage assessments are ongoing at this
And
time.
Landon, your twin brother Brandon actually did notice that, I mean, because you guys have like all of this fancy weather tracking and data gathering gear, but you guys suffered some damages too because the sensors were actually lost. Oh, speaking of lost, okay, can you hear me now? Oh, okay. I was going to say, yeah, and you guys up at the NWS, you have all of this amazing weather data gathering gear, but you guys actually lost some sensors too, which kind of indicates how strong the storm was up north.
Unfortunately, we lost the Doppler radar communications. We had several issues with that. We lost that right before it made its closest passage. Unfortunately, we also lost our anemometer. We lost signal with that. So we reached the peak wind gusts of 106 miles per hour here at the airport before we lost those sensors. So that was very unfortunate, and we were not getting data from Anderson because they cut the power to all the sensors because of flooding concerns, in which they did have some flooding issues up there.
Okay, let me ask you now. I know you're not only a teacher of weather, you're also a student of history, right? How will history remember Typhoon Mawar and what it did to Guam? Because I mean, there are several kind of like unique aspects to this storm. It moved very, very slowly, like we were just talking about. It maybe had it had trouble making up its mind. It seemed very, very intent on making some sort of landfall. It couldn't determine between us and Rota and everything like that. But maybe 5-10 years from now, how is history going to remember Typhoon Mawar?
Well, definitely it's a long duration. This one just took its time to get in and out. And I'm getting the feedback from people all over the place when I go out in public that this was just a very unique, it was a very stressful one, a long lasting one. It was one of the worst they've had. And it depends on your experiences because the experience, depending on where you are, can vary significantly. And so this one's going to be remembered for a while, especially the aftermath. I mean, we're talking of about 6 days now with many people without power, water, and communications. I'm one of them up in NCS, and it's complicated. I've never been this long without power or water in my life, even with storms in the East Coast and the Outer Banks.
Yeah.
But it's how we pull together and how we make things work to pick up the pieces and get back to our daily lives. And for some of us, especially in the north, it may be a while longer, upwards of perhaps 1 or 2 weeks.
Absolutely. So, I know when people when even newbies like me, right, when we talk about like the big storms, the most impactful storms in the history of Guam, you typically talk like about the big three, right? Pamela, Karen, and Pongsona, like in 76, the 60s, and 2002 respectively, right? Maybe even Omar in 97 could make it into there. Do we now have to expand that to say like the big four and include the one we just went through?
Yeah, I think so. I think
Okay.
this one could easily be one of those storms that we can add on to it. Some people have had a lot of reports that this one was worse than Pongsona. And it really depends on your experiences. I know damage was significant with Pongsona in some areas, but this one was unique in its own because of the amount of water, the amount of time of duration. So it'll vary, but I think this will become one of those new benchmark storms. This definitely exceeds Dolphin in 2015 and Main Cut for us in 2018.
All right. So, well, there is something we can rely on. It is the strength of our people and the resiliency of our community, and the information that you were giving to us at least let us know and gave us some guidance about what we were not only facing, but where we were headed as far as recovery and everything. So, man, we can't thank you enough.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jason, because this is a team effort from the Weather Service, but also the Homeland Security, the GovGuam agencies, everyone working together, and the public to heed the information and the warnings to make sure they're prepared.
Absolutely. So, Lennon, man, we appreciate it, man. Great hustle.
Always. Until the next one.
Oh gosh. Hopefully that's a while.